Now we are moving ahead towards the technical sessions of the day. So our first technical session is on the topic spice processing and value addition. For this technical session, we have the session head, Dr. K. Srivastavan sir, Chief Scientist retired CSIR CFTRI Mysore. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ramakrishnan. I have been asked to make some opening remarks on this occasion of a webinar on spices, which has been limited to, I don't know why it was limited to these three: turmeric, red chili, and ginger. And it's my pleasure to share my little knowledge, especially on these three spices. Two of these three spices which you have selected are also designated as pungent spices, which people fear to consume liberally. But I am here to project that you don't have to fear their liberal consumption. Please go ahead, consume it, exploit its medicinal value. As already spoken by all my previous speakers, our country can proudly boast that it is the real land of spices. Wars have been fought, lands have been discovered, wars have been fought. It is because of these spices. Roots have been found out to our country. Our country is the biggest producer of spices, biggest exporter of spices, biggest consumer of spices. These spices, when included in our food, make the insipid food very attractive and also palatable, because most of these spices have typical aroma. They also impart typical flavor. Some of the spices also contribute pungency, and a few of them also contribute to the color of the dish. On the whole, inclusion of spices makes our food more appetizing, and they are consumed all over the world, no doubt. But especially the quantity and variety of spices consumed is particularly extensive in tropical countries such as India. There are certain indirect effects of spices on human health, which you would have probably ignored. My purpose is to just bring out that point. These spices, when included in food, they improve the nutritional quality of our food. Use of spice encourages variety in food intake. Otherwise, the plant-based foods are generally insipid, and it is very difficult to consume because they are less palatable. And the presence of spices in these plant-derived foods makes the consumption of a variety of plant-based foods possible. That means we encounter nutrient diversity because we can increase the food choices. Higher plant food intakes certainly will make possible to improve our health, because plant-based foods are always associated with high dietary fiber intake, low fat intake, low salt intake, less energy density, and higher content of a few vitamins, particularly beta-carotene, vitamin C, folate, etc. So, plant-based foods are encouraged only by the presence of spices along with it. Spices can thus be regarded as the first ever functional food man has ever thought of. This is what I wanted to stress. With time, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, when Charaka evolved his Samhita, Ayurvedic Samhita, he also wrote that some of these spices impart medicinal properties. Since the present today's webinar is restricted to only three spices, I have just mentioned turmeric, red chili, and ginger, and the traditional medicinal uses which they are known for thousands of years. Turmeric is probably the most ancient anti-inflammatory drug ever known. It is also diuretic, laxative, and it can heal our wounds. Red chili is anti-inflammatory. You may ask, it is an irritant, how it can be anti-inflammatory? But in fact, it is a pain reliever. It is anti-inflammatory. It is very useful in arthritis, both rheumatoid as well as arthritis. It is also useful in indigestion, etc. Ginger, of course, is very well known for stimulating our digestive system, and it is also analgesic. These medicinal properties are known for thousands of years. And we now know most of these medicinal properties of the spices have been experimentally and clinically validated in the past 5 or 6 decades, probably in the post-independent India. I would say last 75 years. And turmeric, which has a bioactive compound called curcumin to an extent of up to 5%, owes its medicinal properties to this particular bioactive compound, which in fact is a phenolic compound. And today, by exhaustive translational research as well as clinical research, we have understood the most of the nutraceutical potential of either turmeric, the parent spice, or its bioactive ingredient, curcumin. Turmeric is digestive stimulant. Turmeric can reduce the lipid levels in our circulation as well as in tissues. Effectively can lower the cholesterol levels in the blood. And so, turmeric can be cardioprotective. And by lowering hepatic cholesterol level, it can also prevent cholesterol gallstone disease. Incidentally, because of its hypocholesterolemic property, turmeric or its bioactive curcumin can also protect our red blood cells, because the red blood cells float in the blood. Under conditions of hypercholesterolemia, it is the erythrocytes which get affected first. Cholesterol gets enriched into the membranes of the erythrocytes. The structural integrity is compromised, and so also the functional integrity of the RBCs are lost under conditions of hypercholesterolemia. The very purpose of red blood cells, the oxygen carrying capacity, will be compromised. Turmeric is an excellent antioxidant, and it owes its antioxidant property to curcumin. Today, we always look upon most of the food ingredients for a potential antioxidant effect. In addition to the antioxidant vitamins which we regularly consume, such as vitamin E, vitamin C, etc., beta-carotene, etc., we also need auxiliary antioxidants in the form of phenolic bioactive compounds. Curcumin is one such excellent antioxidant. And because of this antioxidant property, curcumin will exert many disease preventive property also. Incidentally, curcumin is anti-diabetic, curcumin is anti-inflammatory, curcumin is anti-mutagenic, curcumin is cancer preventive, all because of its inherent antioxidant property. The proven implications of antioxidant property of any compound, and in particular curcumin, include many. Amelioration of diabetic secondary complications such as nephropathy, retinopathy, and its potential to protect our lungs, potential to protect our liver, potential to protect our nervous system, etc., wound healing capacity, and protecting our heart's anti-inflammatory and cancer preventive property. All these disease preventive property can be traced back to the potential antioxidant activity which curcumin exerts in our cells in the body. The other spice which you have considered for today's webinar is the pungent spice red chili, which has pungent compounds such as capsaicin, dihydrocapsaicin, nor-dihydrocapsaicin. Capsaicin is the major pungent compound of red pepper, which occurs to an extent of nearly 70%, and followed by dihydrocapsaicin and nor-dihydrocapsaicin. And all the biological properties or the medicinal effects of red pepper can be attributable to this particular compound, which is also responsible for the pungency. Both the pungency as well as the bioactivity are exerted by the same one and the same compound, capsaicin, and its analogs, dihydrocapsaicin, nor-dihydrocapsaicin. This particular slide summarizes all the nutraceutical potential of red chili or its inherent capsaicin so far known. Capsaicin is well known to relieve pain because it causes a burning sensation. At the same time, it relieves our pain. It is beneficial, most beneficial to maintain lipid homeostasis in our body because they can lower the blood cholesterol level. It can lower the blood triglyceride level. That is, in other words, it is anti-atherogenic. Additionally, it is anti-lithogenic also. That is, it prevents the crystallization of cholesterol in the gallbladder in the form of cholesterol gallstones. That is possible because it reduces the concentration of cholesterol in the liver and its eventual secretion into bile. Capsaicin or red chili has beneficial influence on the gastrointestinal system also. Usually a section of our population somehow are always harbor the thought that any pungent spice such as red chili is injurious to our gastrointestinal system. It causes ulcer. But it is not so. Science has repeatedly allayed these fears. In fact, red chili or capsaicin cannot reduce ulcer. It is the H. helicobacter. It is the organism that causes ulcer, not capsaicin. In fact, the capsaicin actually protects our GI tract from its injury. The beneficial influences of red chili or capsaicin on the GI system include beneficial modulation of the small intestinal ultrastructure. It improves the digestive system. It also improves the absorption of micronutrients by beneficially altering the ultrastructure of the small intestine. Capsaicin is also antioxidant, just like curcumin of turmeric. And because it is antioxidant, it also exerts anti-inflammatory effect. It also has other nutraceutical property. The next spice that you have considered for today's webinar is another pungent spice, ginger rhizomes. Ginger has a couple of bioactive compounds, the principal bioactive compound being 6-gingerol, and it is the most pungent among the ginger compounds. Then there are shagool, ginzerone, which also contribute to a couple of nutraceutical property. The nutraceutical benefits of ginger rhizomes have been summarized in this slide. All this information has been gathered in the recent 3 or 4 decades. Ginger can also lower our lipids in the tissues, and as such, it can contribute to reducing our obesity. Ginger is well known to be a digestive stimulant. Because it can lower the fat in our tissues, it can be cardioprotective. And because ginger compounds are antioxidants, they can also be anti-inflammatory effects. In fact, ginger is an excellent analgesic and it's an excellent anti-inflammatory agent. And because it is an antioxidant, it can also prevent cancer. It also protects our liver, kidney, ulcerative colitis. It protects our gastrointestinal tract just like red chili. And because it also alters favorably the ultrastructure of the small intestinal villi, it improves the micronutrient absorption, which is called, the micronutrient deficiency is also called hidden hunger. All of us are subject to a possible deficiency in micronutrients such as zinc, and with such favorable alteration in the ultrastructure of the small intestine caused by these pungent spices, we can actually enhance the micronutrient absorption and ward off such hidden hunger. I previously mentioned that pungent spices go with a bad remark that it can be injurious to GI tract. In fact, it is not. It is protective to the GI tract against oxidative stress-induced injury. They can cause, they are not ulcerogenic. On the other hand, they cause higher secretion of mucins, which protect the gastric mucosa from acid-caused injury. At the same time, these pungent spices also stimulate the activities of important antioxidant enzymes, both in gastric mucosa as well as intestinal mucosa. And we have also established that alcohol-induced injury to gastric mucosa and small intestinal mucosa are well protected by consumption of these pungent spices. Chili is in fact a benefactor of peptic ulcers because it inhibits acid secretion, it stimulates alkali and mucus secretion, it increases the gastric mucosal blood flow. This is what the science says. And I also told that it beneficially alters the ultrastructure of the small intestinal villi. It is the small intestinal villi which is the site for absorption of the nutrients, both macro as well as micronutrients. Significant increase in the length of the small intestine is the result of consumption of these pungent spices. Not only the length of the small intestine is increased by at least 20 to 30%, it is also the perimeter or the surface area of the intestinal villi, this brush-like structures, which is also enhanced. So the area available for the intestinal absorption of micronutrients, especially beta-carotene, iron, zinc, calcium, is also increased by liberal consumption of these pungent spices, red chili and ginger. So all these make these spices the best candidates for a possible exploitation by optimal processing to conserve the bioactives that are responsible for all the medicinal effects. Spices in our diet can reduce the need for the otherwise unhealthy salt, fat, or sugar. Without these unhealthy constituents, salt, fat, and sugar, we can afford to consume plant-derived foods at a larger quantity when spices are present along with them. Many health beneficial attributes of spices have now been scientifically validated, and these common spices have far-reaching nutraceutical value. Antioxidant spices, which I mentioned, curcumin of turmeric, capsaicin of red chili, gingerol of ginger, and they are potentially immune modulators. These days, especially during this COVID pandemic, we always turn towards a possible immune modulator. We always look for food ingredients which can improve our immune system. Any food component which is rich in antioxidant compounds, incidentally, is also a good immune modulator. Hence, these three spices which we have considered today can be used as adjuvant therapy along with the conventional therapy in certain degenerative diseases such as cardiovascular disease or cancer. because simultaneously they can also boost our immune system. Spices thus deserve to be considered as the natural and necessary component of our daily nutrition beyond their usual role to impart taste, flavor to our insipid food. Liberal consumption of spices is proved to be safe. We can afford to consume even 100 times which we are normally consuming. Even if you were to consume 100 times red chili, 100 times ginger, what we normally consume in our diets, nothing happens to our GI tract. Nothing happens to our blood chemistry. We are safe. So, liberal consumption to exploit their medicinal effects should be the strategy. These spices should become the regular component of our daily nutrition. And micro encapsulation techniques and nanotechnology in the present times have boosted the pharmacological application of spice bioactives to overcome the limitations that we encounter in their bioavailability. Sometimes the taste, the pungency will be self-limiting. We cannot afford to consume red chili beyond a certain extent. I think Andhrites consume already more than the rest of the country, but most of us cannot consume as much as Andhrites. But if we have to take advantage of the capsaicin of red chili, somehow we should be able to consume 5 times or 10 times what we normally consume in our dishes. How is it possible? It is possible through encapsulation. Once we encapsulate the pungent capsaicin, you will not taste the pungency, but once it is absorbed, we will derive all its medicinal effect. Bioactive compound will be intact. So with this, I end my initial remarks. Thank you very much, Dr. Anand Ramakrishnan.
Thank you so much, sir. It was quite informative. Our first speaker for the session is Dr. Anis King, scientist at Biochemistry ICAR ISR Kozhikode. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Respected chairman of the session, Dr. K. Srinivasan, and all the dignitaries present over there. First of all, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. So I will be covering what actually spices are made of, and I will be just touching upon what you mean by essential oil with regards to its quality and in comparison to oleoresin, and different extraction methods for both the essential oil and oleoresins will be touched upon, and I will be giving more emphasis on solvent extraction and supercritical fluid extraction, and I will be running through other methods and how we can use these oleoresins in the current concept of masalas, and a little bit on natural colors which is obtained from spices, and more importantly at the end I will be touching upon what are all the prospects as an entrepreneurship development using this essential oil and oleoresin from spices in future. So now no much of introduction is required, but nonetheless I would say that the spices what we eat today as a raw spices or dried spices is actually known for its essential oil and oleoresin. Say we use flavor and aroma very interchangeably. Actually, it has got its own technically different meaning. When aroma, when we say it is only we sense through our nose or this by smell, and when we say flavor, it is actually a combination of taste and smell both. So, in other sense, we say aroma is attributed by its essential oil component, and flavor is you can say a combination of essential oil and resin, that is the oleoresin part. So I will just show you how actually it looks like inside the spices. This is just a cross-sectional view of ginger, how these oil globules are actually embedded within the tissue. You can see the yellow dots, which are globules, which are oil globules, which actually evaporates at even at room temperature and gives the aroma. That's why we get a particular feel of a particular spice when we take it in our hand or when we go to the field. You say that this is a ginger field or this is a turmeric field. So that's how these oil globules look like inside. And coming to the comparison of essential oil versus oleoresin, as I told, essential oil gives the fragrance to a particular plant part, or it is a volatile aromatic compound, and normally it is extracted through hydro or steam distillation. But oleoresin, on the other hand, is a mixture of essential oil and the resins extracted from its plant part that is normally extracted through this solvent. So in a nutshell, what the function of a spice is attributed by its taste and aroma, which is contributed by its both essential oil and resin part, which actually we say it as oleoresin. Now, if you see some important compounds in spices which gives its aroma, you know cinnamon, which is cinnamaldehyde. But black pepper, when we say it is not piperine, which it gives aromatic nature. That is, the aroma of the black pepper is by linalool and alpha terpinol, and chili, capsaicin and terpene hydrochloride, cardamom 1,8-cineol, ginger, which we have already seen, gingerol and shogol. In dry ginger, it is shogol. In fresh ginger, it is gingerol. The gingerol, when it is dehydrated, it is converted to shogol. Clove, it is eugenol, and vanilla, you know very well vanillin. Now, coming to the methods of extraction, we have different methods of extraction like hydrodistillation, steam distillation, microwave assisted extraction, solvent extraction, enfleurage, cohobation, maceration, and supercritical fluid extraction. So I will rush through all the method except solvent extraction, supercritical fluid extraction. So hydrodistillation is very common to even a very layman concept, which is, as a cottage industry, you will find this process for isolating this oils from this eucalyptus oil or citronella grass. That is what is hydrodistillation refers to. Here, nothing so great about this technology. You just boil the material, plant material, by dipping in water and collect the steam, condense the steam, and once it is condensed, you will get two layers of oil and water. Most of the time, the lesser denser oil will be on top of the layer. In some cases, it will be more denser oil, so it will be on bottom layer. So that's the ultimate principle of hydrodistillation. Now the next technology is steam distillation. It is actually considered as most economical, and this is most widely adopted by these cottage industries. Here only the difference is we are not dipping the plant material inside the water. Rather, we are actually putting the plant material on top of the boiling water or over a mesh. So due to that, this steam coming out of this boiling water is passed through this plant material, and which carries the essential oil along with that, and finally it is being condensed. But what is the problem with all this technology is that even though it can be adopted by any common man, the problem is the requirement of cooling water is very highly essential for condensation. So normally it is done on a hill valley where they have 24/7 supply of water from the hilltop, very natural supply of hilltop. Then it is very economical. Otherwise, the energy consumed by way of heating the water and also for cooling, it is highly making this process as a highly energy consuming. Now coming into the cold extraction, where we say that cryogenic grinding or cold pressing. Here the oil is expelled, pressed at a very low temperature and pressure. This is a process where there is no high temperature, but rather you are pressing at a very low temperature. The requirement of this is when your compound of interest is thermolabile, or it is actually degraded due to high temperature treatment, then the steam distillation or hydrodistillation may not be applicable. At this time, we have to go for cold extraction methodology. And here, rather than going for powdering the matrix, we will be doing some scrubbing or some granulating of this plant matrix from which we are extracting this oil will be done. And this is actually applied in the case of vanillin, which we all use in our ice cream, even though most of them are synthetic available in the market. But the original vanillin extracted from the vanilla beans are actually following this cold extraction protocol. And here advantage is there is no removal of solvent or the water is required in this process, because we are just pressing at a very low temperature to ooze out our oil from that, and it will be highly pure. Now, this is another technology, microwave assisted hydrodistillation. It is nothing much different from hydrodistillation, except the fact that instead of heating using a fuel, we are heating the water using microwave. That's all. That is just a technical difference, but practically there is a much difference, because it takes very less time and also it requires very less amount of water for extracting the same amount of oil from a particular plant matrix. That's highly advantageous of this material, this method. And also it adds a selectivity option, because if you want to selectively extract a particular active ingredient from that oil, that is also possible using this microwave assisted hydrodistillation. Now this is a very age-old practice of extracting flavors from flowers as well as from spices also. This is known as enfleurage. Enfleurage is nothing but it uses a fat that solidifies at room temperature, and that which can capture the fragrant compound exuded by the plants. It can be classified into two types, which is hot enfleurage is also there, cold enfleurage is there. You can see the picture here, you will understand the concept very easily. In case of cold enfleurage, we have a wire mesh frame in layers of wire mesh frames which are coated with this fat and embedded with embedded with the flower, or normally used it for floral flavor extraction. So there you keep this flower in between these frames for a particular period of time, and the flavor material from the flower is actually exuded to the this fat matrix, and finally it is separated from that by heating this fat. In case of hot enfleurage, we are not making it into a solid form, rather than we are making this fat into a liquid form by giving a very mild heat. And for efficient extraction, what we do is we replenish with fresh fat or wax into that, and we will get the extracted flavor compound. Now coming to the solvent extraction, which we are actually dealing for oleoresins. Now, in the inaugural session, you might have heard about oleoresin extraction from plant lipid CEO. So these are all the big companies doing this solvent extraction, where what they do is they put the plant material or spices in this solvent. Solvent, when we say solvent, it is normally organic solvents. Why organic solvent? Because hydrodistillation can give only those who are volatile compounds, but there are non-volatile either extracts or non-volatile extracts present in these spices which are not soluble in water. So for extracting such compounds, we use organic solvent which are non-polar in nature. So here what we do is we have to step by step. If we go, the first step is the raw material preparation. Raw material preparation, of course, it refers to the cleaning and grinding of the spices. Why we have to clean is because if you have some extraneous matter in that, while we do solvent extraction, it can extract the resin part of the extraneous matter also. Because say when you do bark peeling of cinnamon, it may contain some other plant material when we do, because it's a very raw process from the field. So we have to be very careful that it should not contain any extraneous matter, and also we have to grind it. And how much to grind? We should not be grinding it too fine, and it should not be too bigger also. It should be a coarse grinding. Why coarse grinding? It allows a better solvent percolation into the matrix, so that it can extract maximum. But if it is too fine, it will have a clogging effect, and which will ultimately result in the low solvent percolation also. So that's why if you go to any industry, they will not powder pepper or turmeric for that matter into a very fine powder to put into the solvent extraction, but rather than it will be a fine granules form for better solvent extraction. Now the next step is the solvent exposure steps. Here there are some aspects which we should consider. What should be the solvent solute ratio which is to be applied? Normally this is fixed for different spices in different manner. And not only that, even if we say 1:2 ratio or 1:3 ratio of solute to solvent ratio, it is being replenished at a different time interval, so that maximum extraction is possible. And another aspect is the direction of the flow. There are different models of this extraction units are available, where counter current flow and the current flow system, where we the same solvent is being passed into the matrix again and again, or are we using the continuous flow where the matrix is exposed with a new solvent at every time point? That's a meaning of this direction of the flow or design of the extractor. Now, once you treat with this solvent at a particular temperature, and we will say that the entire matrix or the plant matrix is devoid, not completely, at least the maximum extractable limit to the solvent. Now we have, what is our next step is we have to remove this plant matrix which is devoid practically of this our oleoresin, and we have to get the solvent which contains our oleoresin. Now once we get that pure solvent containing oleoresin, we have to remove this solvent. It is actually a very easy process, but that is the most dangerous part of this whole process, where we apply vacuum to evaporate this solvent, because at vacuum the boiling point of this solvent or polar solvents are non-polar solvents are very low, so it will get evaporized very fast, and it may be able to remove 98 to 99% of the solvent, but there will be still residual solvent that will be removed by spurging with nitrogen, and different techniques are adopted, where a residual solvent content is reached to the allowed limit, because international market, when we send this oleoresin, there is a residual solvent allowed in each and every product. So we have to reach to that level so that it passes the quality criteria by different agencies like European Union or USA or any other Japan, or there are different standards set by these agencies. So depending on that, you have to decide how much to remove the solvent, because the solvent, when we say polar, hexane, ethyl acetate, acetone, all these solvents are not healthy, or it is actually hazard factor to our health. Now, once we get this oleoresin, normally the oleoresin, 100% oleoresin is a very thick, tacky paste which is very difficult to handle. So once you extract it, it will, if you keep it for 2-3 days, it will become a near to solid. But we have to use this oleoresin, or we have to make it user friendly so that we can export it. Otherwise, it will not be very easy for others to use this oleoresin for any purpose. Maybe for pharmaceutical purpose, maybe for food making, or maybe for nutraceutical purpose. So normally, what this industry do is they admix this vegetable oil or permitted diluents like propylene glycol, so that it is easy to handle or easy to operate. That's why you might have noticed the CEO of Plant Lipids were telling we are having more than 5,000 different products. So depending on the companies or customers' demand, they dilute this oleoresin at different concentration. That's why they have different. Now, why we should go for oleoresin? Because we Indians are highly obsessed with the use of these spices, and you will wonder that out of our, even though we are the largest producers, 83% what we produce is consumed inside our domestic market, and out of that, 80% is in its raw form or its powdered form, not the oleoresin form. Only very little of this oleoresin is used inside the country as a domestic consumption for its medicinal purpose or for nutraceutical development. So, but that is not going to be the future. We are so much obsessed with this powdered form of our spices because it is available in our courtyard. It is very much near to us. No need of making into a concentrated form. But in future, when we are getting more quality conscious, that won't be the scenario. We have to use this oleoresin for the real essence of the spice, for using it and for storing it. What are all the benefits of this oleoresin? It is amenable. It has got an amenable consistency which allows its product standardization. In what concentration you need, at what pungency you need, and what level of aroma you need, what is the intensity of aroma you need, you can manipulate by diluting it, by concentrating it. And the moment you add, the flavor of this oleoresin is released, and at a very low dosage. Say, it's very easy to understand for us. You take the vanilla essence, we add drops of vanilla essence, not ml or not liters of vanilla essence. So that much low dosage is enough for instant flavor delights. And most importantly, say spices nowadays are known for adulterations. So there are a lot of methods for adulteration of spices, and there are a lot of adulterated food material or spice products are available. So once you turn into this oleoresin, this will be free from physical impurities, of course, and since it is a highly concentrated form where pathogens and microbial contaminants cannot survive, so it will be free from that. And as I told you, it will have a very negligible moisture content, so it has got a very longer shelf life. And most importantly, the oxidative degradation, which is the most culprit of most of the storage food, this epoxidation, peroxidation, everything happens. So that low oxidative degradation is also an advantage of keeping this as oleoresin. And from industry point of view or from an exporter point of view, instead of exporting 1 ton of black pepper, you need to export only 170 kg of oleoresin. So you can imagine the space required for export and transportation cost and space required for warehouses, everything can be reduced. And depending on your need, whether you need in a water soluble form, whether you need in a fat soluble form, you can, it can be dispersed in appropriate carrier using a emulsifying agent. It is amenable for all such things. And the flavor release, say I told you it is instant flavor release. If you want to make the flavor release in a very slow, say if you want to make a packing material which releases this a flavor of your oleoresin or spices in a very slow manner, you can maneuver that. Or sometimes, in aromatherapy, say now people are going behind aromatherapy, pillow spray, pillow, these tablets are available, cotton tablets are available. So where you need to release or control the release of this aroma, everything is possible using this. And in fact, oleoresin offers 100% functionality. 100% content can be utilized for our own, all benefits. While raw spice, say 20 to 40% functionality is there. For example, if you put any cardamom into your food material, you take out that cardamom even after cooking, you just bite it. Still, it have got the flavor of cardamom. That means we have not utilized it fully. And from industry point of view, this is actually not from farmers' point of view. They can get rid of this seasonal price fluctuation of the market, because when the black pepper price is very low, or if they get a high piperine content black pepper from somewhere, they can purchase it, because there is no price fixation based on the piperine content or based on the oleoresin content at the moment. Still, we are following the old fashion of boldness and all. We are trying from our institute, Indian Institute of Spices Research, to change this policy to have a price range based on its quality aspect or based on its oleoresin content, based on its active principle content. In fact, we are spending years for breeding with high curcumin content, high piperine content, but there is no value from farmers' point of view. But industry, of course, they are getting benefit out of that. But unless advantages, there are disadvantages also. Disadvantages is, the major disadvantage is it is not environment friendly of this oleoresin extraction, because it uses solvent extraction is we use a lot of chemical hazardous solvents for its extraction, and flavor profile depending on the solvent used. Even though we say that you can use different extraction solvents, the flavor profile of this oleoresin will depend on which solvent you are using, because depending on the polarity, depending on the conditions we use, it extracts specifically the contents of this oleoresin. And since it is very concentrated, it is very difficult to handle, but it can be managed by diluting it. In some cases, there will be tannins present. So that tannins has to be removed with special treatment. So that will act as a hindrance to your ultimate oleoresin product. And another disadvantage is long extraction time and high solvent consumption. This actually adds to the cost. And that's why the solvent extraction units are not available in a cottage industry form. Rather than it is a very high industry form. And if you see in Indian scenario, we are the largest exporter of this oleoresin. You can count on your fingers, maximum 10 to 15 companies are there in in the country who are doing this business at a large scale, because all this oleoresin business or essential oil business are majorly dependent on foreign market or export market. And another major issue which is faced by the industry is low reproducibility. Say curcumin extraction industry, they are facing this problem very severely, where sometimes from oleoresin of turmeric, they get 80% or say 70% yield of curcumin. Sometimes they get 40%. Batch to batch variation is there. So it is very tough to maintain that reproducibility aspect. Even though you do a pilot scale study, then you enlarge into a large one. That's the major problem of this. But even though I told like this, how the practical way in industry it is done is totally different. What they do is they take the spice, they do a steam distillation for de-oiling the spice. They take the essential oil completely from that. Then the raw material out of the de-oiled spice is the raw material for solvent extraction, and they extract the resin from that. Now, once they get the resin and essential oil separately, they blend this resin and essential oil depending on the customer's need by homogenization. And if you notice the world market, the McDonald's, KFC, the world brands, their taste, whether you take from Kochi, whether you take from Delhi, whether you take from US, the taste is same because they don't use the spice as such, but they use this blended resin and essential oil in a specific format and to make or to retain their brand identity. So that's why these industry people are actually surviving by supplying this blending and homogenized resin and essential oil of various combination of spices for a particular brand. So that's a secret, formula of each and every company is there. So that's a practical way at industry level they are doing. Now coming into the supercritical fluid. After hearing the disadvantage of environment, hazard of this, our solvent extraction, scientists actually developed this supercritical fluid extraction way back, say almost 3 decades. The supercritical fluid has been in place. What is actually critical point? It's a set of condition of temperature and pressure where a particular material acts like a liquid and vapor. So, say for example, separating oleoresin from spices using supercritical fluid is possible. Supercritical fluid is any substance at a temperature and pressure above its critical point. So, it can diffuse through solids like a gas and dissolve materials like liquid. So, it has got both the property of gas and liquid. So, its efficiency is more. That's why it requires very less time. Even slight changes in the critical point, say temperature or pressure above its critical point, changes its density or specific gravity of this supercritical fluid, and it actually changes the extractability or selectivity of extraction during extraction. Now you can say 2 types of supercritical fluids are available: single material like carbon dioxide, which is more commonly used, water, or co-solvents where ethanol, methanol, different combination of solvents are also used. Most commonly adopted supercritical fluid is carbon dioxide because of its very unique property, like it's non-toxic, it's non-flammable, no odor, it has no taste, inert and inexpensive, and moreover it is very easy to remove from this extraction. This is just for academic purpose how the critical temperature of different materials like carbon dioxide, methane, water, everything is there. These are all only to know at what temperature and pressure we have to maintain so that a carbon dioxide has to become supercritical fluid. Now, as I told, why this ACF? It combines the property of gases and liquid. So it increases the solubility of our compound of interest. You can manipulate the density by manipulating the temperature and pressure. And once you extract the oleoresin or essential oil from that, it is very easy to remove the supercritical fluid by just lowering the pressure. You just remove your high pressure, then this carbon dioxide is get evaporated very easily. And whatever left is, we are left with only our oleoresin or essential oil with us. So this is an environment friendly, reduced product contamination, and also the time required we have to very critically notice, only 10 to 60 minutes. Normally on an average it is 30 minutes, half an hour only is required. and the purity obtained by supercritical fluid is 99.99%. It's very so pure. And as I told, simple recovery of analyte. You just release the pressure to get your pure product. And there is an option called selectivity also. This is just an idea how we do it. We have a carbon dioxide supply in a from one side, and that will be forming to this cooler and pumped where it is being pumped, and there will be an extraction vessel in a lab scale model. There will be extraction vessel, but in a lab scale model, it will be a very huge tank where this our supercritical fluid carbon dioxide will be pumped into, and it will be coming out of this cell extraction vessel where the pressure will be released, and this carbon dioxide can be recycled back. So that there won't be any wastage also, because to reduce the carbon footprint, the now technology is that this carbon dioxide can be recycled back. So this is a general. Now, since we are actually dealing with the turmeric, chili, and ginger, I have taken an example of turmeric, where what are all the products from an industry if you get the raw turmeric into the industry. The dried turmeric, after boiling and drying, polishing, we do milling and sifting, we will get the turmeric powder or granules. You go for supercritical carbon dioxide extraction, you get the turmeric oil. Now we will get the unflavored turmeric powder, as I told, de-oiled turmeric powder that will be used for solvent extraction. You get the oleoresin or curcumin, and the de-oleoresin removed turmeric residue that is again used by the industry for fractionation of starch, fibers, and proteins. So this is the scenario at the moment in the industry level. It's not just about getting oleoresin and oil. There are further downstream processing to get the fibers and starch from the turmeric. So why we are interested in starch and fibers? Because the property of the starch obtained from this turmeric is totally different from the starch which we get from the our tapioca or for the normal or banana. So the property, the granule, the degree of branching, everything is different, which has got different application in nutraceuticals and pharmaceutical applications. Now, how we can use this oleoresin in our day-to-day masala? Because we are at IASR doing research on how we can use this liquid blends of masala. Even though in market by this industry, Synthite, plant lipids, all are making these customized mixes of oleoresin for biryani masala, everything. Essence are made, but it is not available to the common public. So we are making it an effort to make this oleoresin masala or liquid masala, or in a common man's language, the masala essence as a common man's business or a cottage industry. We are making an effort. Maybe in 1 or 2 years, that technology will be out for the common man, where this oleoresin can be mixed in different proportions to make the masala, say sambar essence, rasam essence, or chicken masala essence will be available. So how we can use oleoresin masala? That it can be in two ways: substitution and fortification, other than the liquid spice blends. What do you mean by substitution? Say suppose we have a masala mix where pepper, clove, cardamom, ginger, everything is there. Out of which cardamom is very tough to powder because of its the fiber content. So we want to substitute this cardamom using the cardamom oleoresin. What if you take is, out of this 100 kg, 5 kg was cardamom. So you take the 95 kg masala mix and cardamom oleoresin 100 gram and extender, because 100 gram cardamom oleoresin is equivalent to 5 kg of cardamom. So we have to add extender or the filler material, so that this cardamom oleoresin will be uniformly spread or mixed in the. So this is an example of substitution. Now coming to the fortification, this is very common to us. Say we have a chicken masala. You want to make a peppery chicken masala or a ginger flavored chicken masala or garlic flavored chicken masala. In that case, you take the base of chicken masala powder. Into that you add the oleoresin of pepper, ginger, or garlic along with the extender, so that it becomes different products. So this is another area where we can use our oleoresin. Now coming, just touching upon these colors. Say we have a red color obtained from our capsicum, yellow color from turmeric, and a very useful color of purple from kokum. Kokum, that is our Garcinia indica. This is an anthocyanin pigment. Even though red and term yellow pigment is highly used for coloring purpose in various products, it is in cosmetics mainly and also in textile industry. But the purple color, which is kokum, that is Garcinia indica, that is having a highly potential business opportunity from this, where it can be extracted very easily just by boiling the kokum rinsed in water, and you can get that and you can concentrate that to get the purple color. It's highly food grade color, and it can be wonderful color. You can see this color right here, wonderful, very appealing color. It can be used for any ready to serve beverage making. Now, what is the prospect of entrepreneurship in this spice sector? Because this is a ODOP, one district, one product program. In fact, at the moment, oil and oleoresin industry is highly export oriented. So, for a small scale industry, at the moment, it's very tough to find a market. But as I told, in the near future, this is going to be a very normal technology, because our Indian customers, the domestic customers, also are willing to take these drops of spices as a masala mix. So then you have a scope of making this essential oil unit and a oleoresin unit at a very small scale. It can be made even now, but the problem is it is very difficult to find a market for that. The moment you get a market for this in the domestic level, I'm 100% sure the picture of this oleoresin industry is going to change in the country, and the way we look at the masala at the moment as a powder is going to totally vanish in the next 10 years. That's what we foresee. And another thing, when we go for this oleoresin, is stringent quality measures, that is pesticide residue. Here is the very tricky thing, where an industrialist has to think from where he has to procure his raw material. While he procuring, he has to ensure that pesticide residue are minimal, because even though in the material it is in the limit of our standards, while you extract the oleoresin, you're actually concentrating the pesticide residue as well. So at that time, you have to be doubly sure that the pesticide residue is as minimal as possible, so that you will not end up in problem once you make this oleoresin. And since it's a high value, low volume product, there are as in the introductory remark, Dr. MSV has told, from 12% to 1024% profit option is there. And use of raw spices versus spice liquid blend, I think that is the future of these spices. Now, at the moment, extracting color is a potential area for small scale business, I would say, as a food additive. That's the right area where, if you want to go for a small scale, because this PMFME scheme giving for under ODOP is only 25 lakh is the maximum limit, under which we can go for extracting color from spices. Now, as I told, powder masala mix will be replaced by liquid spice blend. Customized spice from local cuisine, that's another advantage for us. From India, if you take a single state like Kerala, we have region wise masala for even biryani, Malabari, fish curry, the South Indian, South Kerala fish curry, all are different. So you can have a local cuisine customized spice blend is another opportunity. And as I told, encapsulation is another total different area. And now we are working on nutraceuticals development. We have now one commercialized one technology to the Milma. And another area is caviar of spice masala mixes, that we are actually in the initial stage of research how we can store this masala mixes as caviar. Caviar is nothing but like what you see in this picture here on top. And edible heat stable packaging material we are developing at the moment, that will be in market for enhanced storage life of perishables, and not only to increase its shelf life, but also to act as a ready to cook spicy wraps for fishes, meats, which we are under development. Maybe in the next 1 or 2 years, we will come up with that. So that's also the future of this spice. These are all the different products which we can make out of these spices. And out of this, the last one, the golden milk, which we have made using the 100% soluble curcumin. That's the technology developed by us and has been handed over to Milma, that is now available in Amazon. You can also search for that golden milk mix as a powder and also golden milk as a direct milk. Both are available in the Amazon at the moment. So you can also, so these are all the some of the nutraceutical which we have developed at here. And I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity and for your patient hearing and listening. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to invite next technical speaker. For this, we have with us Dr. Nima Vinsik, ma'am. We welcome you, ma'am. Ma'am will speak on the spice processing and the value addition.
Welcome you all once again. So this the session we are going to discuss in detail about this value addition of spices. As we well known, the future scope of the spice industry, that previous sessions we had a lot of eye opening. Especially Anis sir mentioned about the lot of value addition of the spices and its products. As we well known, we are the home of the spices and land of spices. Our productions status also is very high. We are a largest producer as well the consumer, and also we are exporting spices more than 90% of domestic consumptions. The rest of them we are doing exporting and also we are importing. Out of 99 spices recognized by ISO in the world, more than 50 to 60 spice crops are grown in our country. Especially among these, chilies, a major spice crops occupy 25% of area under cultivation and contribution about 22% of total spice production in our country. The overall that share of the world spice trade about 40% by volume and 25 to 30% by value that Indian share in global market. And that among these categories, that major chilies, major spices, chilies, ginger and turmeric is under this category. That we also have the Indian spices have obtained the geographical indicators such as Malabar pepper, Alapi green cardamom, Coorg green cardamom, and Naga chilies and Ghost chilies at AP. So we have the different versatile spices. It is a nature's gift to mankind. We could have the isolates and bioactive components. As we well known, when you do the value additions, it should have the functional properties and these nutraceuticals effect. Traditionally, that spices in traditionally we consumed as domestic purpose, and recently it is also considered widely in nutraceutical because of the nutraceutical properties. In the pharmaceutical industries, it play a major role, especially each spices and condiment. It has these functional and bioactive components, especially curcuminoids in turmeric and termones. And red pepper, it has the hapsacintins, and pepperin, and it has the pungent principle. Not only that pungent spices, that each spices also has the aromatic properties, and it also can be used as a colorant. And it because of the phenolic spices, we especially cloves and all the other spices we used for the some nutraceutical industry. So especially that color pigments, natural pigments, consider turmeric. It is water soluble, fat soluble, and heat stable, which is curcuminoids, and its chilies, carotenoids, and the capsaicins. This is fat soluble, and saffron, this yellow shade colors, which is water soluble. So each spices it has the specific functional properties. So, and also that mainly the nutraceuticals, they use the spices for their phytonutrients, which is essentially present in essential oils, antioxidants and vitamins, which are known to have the disease preventing and health promoting activities, and anti-carcinogenic, anti-inflammatory effect which is present in the curcumin. Each spices it has the specific phytonutrients, so that the spices also consider now not only for traditional use, it included the nutraceutics. Nowadays nearly 15% of the spice productions in our country we are using apart from the domestic purpose in nutraceutical purpose. But even India is the land of spices, but we are in the nascent stage. The major consumer of the countries like USA, European and Japan market, major consumers of our Indian spices, more than 8%, 8 to 10% Europe countries, they are concentrating the spices for the nutraceutical sectors. And India, including domestic purpose only, we are consuming the spices as a nutraceutical purpose, but we can compare with China and Japan and USA. So alone nutraceutical sectors, it is growing rapidly. But in our country, that at present status, we consume dry chilies. Say regional specific also. Each spices it has the regional specific. Dry chilies, you can see northeast regions consumption is 160 gram per capita consumption per year. When we compare with the southern region, it is vast high, more than 926 grams per capita consumption. And similarly, the turmeric consumption is highest in eastern region and lowest in southern region. Ginger highest in northeastern region of the country. So that depends on the consumption pattern. Also, we have the versatile variety and future outlook, because we look towards the future, not tomorrow, but for the generation. In the spice sectors, these following points should be considered when you do the business for the future food. As a future food, the sterilized spices in terms of irradiated and non-thermal spices is becoming most demand in this commercially. And similarly, fresh flavored spices can be processed by supercritical extraction techniques, as Anisha discussed previous discussion. And pure form of spices, that is the active principles, isolation of active principles, and stabilized flavor, especially encapsulated spices can be in this category. And fresh spices and herbs also should be considered, that updation of this innovative technology for extend the shelf life of the fresh spices and herbs having lot of scope. And quality of spices in terms of primary processing itself, we should be concentrate. And byproducts after extraction of these oleoresins and these isolates, the spent mills also further it can be scaled up for the further value additions in terms of crystallized turmeric can be used for the further processing. And another important area in the spice industries, we can say screening method of spices, especially the lot of issues behind these pesticides, heavy metals and decontamination. So why that value addition is importance? As we well known, we could able to prevent the spoilage, and also we could able to maintain the quality instead of whole fresh spices. When you do value addition, we could able to do the versatility, and we can extend the self stability. Further, it can be increase this nutritional value to improve the health of the consumer, and also we could able to save the time and energy. When you do processing, that primary processing, we are doing the whole spices in terms of fresh and dried spices. It can be processed into different form: whole form, cut form, and preserved and paste form. And similarly, the dry spices also, it can be processed into whole, cut and split powder. Here the dehydration techniques we used to practice. In the secondary processing, the further value-added products in terms of powders, essential oils, oleoresin, isolates, encapsulated flavors, and dispersed spices can be produced. It can be extracted by distillation methods, and followed by this primary and secondary processing. That spices also available in different forms: mixed powder and straight powder, and also it can be processed into concentrate form. Oil and oleoresin, it is becoming very popular in global market. Recently, it is upcoming in our Indian market also. Spice products in terms of curry mixes and whole spices also is a conventional products commercially available in domestic and as well the international market. So when you do the value additions, we could able to get the safety of the consumer, and we could able to strengthen the flavor and the other conserve the volatile components which is present in these spices. And also it helps to encourage the growth of ancillary industry. And we could also, it should be, when you do this processing and value addition, it is more hygienic than whole spices when you do process into the whole form, whole spices. And also that value addition will help us to store these spices due to the reduction of the bulk density. The spices also available in the different modified form, liquid soluble spices and dried soluble spices, emulsion and encapsulated spices. For example, in terms of oleoresins, further it can be formed into the form of essence, emulsion, and dispersed and plated and dry soluble spices. And also it can be similarly heat resistant spices and fat based spices can also be produced out of this. So this area should be concentrate much. And when you the form of spices in trade market, we can say that ground spices, the ground spices also available in different form, coarse grind form, fine grain and cracked form, depends on the players that the size it will be from fine to coarse. And the consumer packed spices in the global market, it is available in the three form, depends on the segment, industrial and institutional segment. We can pack bulk and retail pack. And organic spices and the we can say it has the highest demand. And in this spice industry, that the customer will get the very clean and organic spices will get more prices. And spice extract also, it is a modified form of spices. It will be available in soluble form and dispensable form. And also for the aromatic and flavor purpose we can produce. And when you do the processing of turmeric, for example, conventional method, we are doing drying with prior to steam treatment and followed by this drying and polishing. The dried rhizome can be stored. That primary processing, we can produce the powder and dried rhizome. In the secondary processing, that value-added product in terms of curcuminoids, oil, and oleoresins can be produced. So here the extraction always the solid to solvent ratio 1:3 to 3 ratio should be followed by the distill filtration and desolventation. The turmeric oleoresins can be produced. Further, the crystallization process, we can also produce the curcumin powder. That clean emerging technology for the processing of this conventional turmeric processing. During the conventional turmeric processing, that high temperature will be involved, light and oxygen exposure throughout the processing, so that curcumins and other bioactive components will be unstable. So due to the long process, more than 48 hours of heat treatment and this further processing, so that and solvent extraction technique also will be reduced. This residual effect will be there, especially we could say residue of hexane and residue of acetone or dichloroethylene. So for instead of that, biorefinery from clean emerging technologies will be help us to produce this clean emerging technology. Here the pressurized liquid extraction method and supercritical carbon extraction method can be used for the production of a secondary product in terms of a curcumin and turmeric oil, so that the process time also able to reduce, and also the residual effect will be avoided. So out of this we can produce polished, unpolished turmeric, oleoresin. And recently the green turmeric becoming good market. For the production of green turmeric, instead of the dried turmeric, we can use the non-thermal preservation technique like ultraviolet heat treatment and the RF sterilization treatment and ozone process treatment will help us to preserve these volatile compounds and by active principle as a pre-treatment for the processing of these turmeric. And drying methods here, instead of open sun drying, we can use the hybrid solar dryer. So throughout this even rainy season also, we can be able to operate the unit so by the reservoirs of energy using the UV light. We can able to control this temperature and humidity, so that we could able to get this uniform temperature and humidity during the processing. And as well this fluidous bed dryer for this crystallized flakes, chili flakes and ginger flakes processing, it will help us to preserve, so that can be avoid the long period of drying. Within a 3 to 4 pass, we could able to get the flakes out of that. And tunnel drying, other conventional instead of conventional dryers, that tunnel dryer can be used so that initial moisture will be high, that can be controlled with controlling the temperature in the 3 deck so that we could able to get the uniform drying, and the sweating also will be controlled during the after processing. And that recently we conducted a study out of that the drying temperature and the time using of this hybrid solar dryer, and we could able to get this better nutritional profile in terms of vitamin C and protein compared with other dryers. And freeze dryer is a recent techniques for production of this green chili pepper and coriander, these major spices, is especially rhizomes type of gingers also can be dried by using of the freeze drying technique. So the freeze drying during the lyophilization, that materials is achieved at the temperature of minus 30 to at 100 amp bar 1.5 hours. Within 1.5 hours we could able to get this material so that we can it can be having good amount of antioxidants, and also it can be performed as a biopreservatives. So when we compare with the conventional drying, it has the good amount of palatability, and also it can be used for the fortificants because there's a recently the fortification of the food spice playing major role for the development of functional food and nutraceutical food. So secondly, the cold extraction as the cryogenic grinding, as we discussed the previous session. So when we compare with the conventional drying, it's a submerging at temperature so that we could minimize the loss of essential oil, and also volatile components losses also can be controlled. We can also control the particle size throughout the period. As the major issues during this conventional dryings, the temperature and loss of essential oil and clogging problem and oxidation, those problems can be addressed by this cold cryogenic drying. So by the support of the nitrogen and carbon dioxide gas, we could able to get this cold grinded spices, especially turmeric powder also can be produced. So, and out of these, after extraction of these secondary products, so that spent spices can be used for the production of biodegradable edible films. It can be produced based on the alginate based, and these we can also gelatin based edible films will help us to extend the self stability of the meat, and also it will help us to reduce the lipid oxidase so that it is a biodegradable, biocompatible materials for we can use as a replacement for the polymeric materials. Also, it is due to the increase in the antioxidants capacities, the film will be help us for the production of that. And this spice concentrate and isolates, as we well known, that's a amount of concentrate when we compare with this essential oil and oleoresins. The commercial products 5 to 50-fold higher value of active constituents. You can see that cassia, black pepper, and nutmeg, and all the spices and condiments. 1 kg it can be replaced with 20 kg of raw spices of nutmeg, and 50 kg of cardamom. It is equal to 1 kg. So that will be nature's storehouse for the aroma, flavor, and nutrients. And as a spice oil, that main active components which is present in gingerol and sesquiterpene and gingerberrin, and curcumin, which is active components is present in the turmeric. It can be a good market. It's various types of spice oil can be produced out of these pepper and ginger, cardamom, nutmeg, and turmeric. It can be processed by steam distillation. The main essential oils which is present in these spices, this fragrance and flavor properties that can be produced by water distillation method. And another important process technique, we could say, the pulping, fresh pulping and spice paste, it's becoming good market. So here that we have the different types of peppers. That is fresh spices can be processed into form of the pulp and paste. Before prior to this processing, it's pre-treated with this evaporators and is treated with a sodium benzoate and sorbic acid bypassed through this conveyor. So the pre-treated pulp and paste should be concentrated before prior to the pasteurization treatment. Here the pasteurization temperature and time should be involved. So if the ultra high temperature, that process time should be a seconds at 120 degrees centigrade. It can be a 2 seconds pasteurization enough. If the temperature is beyond that temperature, 138 degrees centigrade, 1 second treatment is enough for this pasteurization. And similarly, that pepper can also be available in different form, via sterilized pepper, dried form, powder form, oil, oleoresin, pepperine, and bottle and canned peppers can be processed. And we have these different varieties of these called hottest pepper in terms of boost pepper. So when we compare with this capsaicin which is present in this our own Jolakia boost pepper, it has the highest amount of pungency. So when we compare with other varieties, these are very popular in European market. These spices also can be processed into paste and pulp. So prior to pulp processing, it should be a lactic acid bacteria treatment followed by this lactobacillus lactic fermentation and acetic acid fermentation. Prior to this processing, it can be formed into the paste and pulp form. And further, we are producing conventionally. The curry powder is very popular among powders among these multi spices. The spice mix, it contains turmeric, mainly spices in terms of turmeric, coriander, cumin, fennel, and black pepper. These are the important 7 spices combinations we have. This curry mixer can be used for the versatile application, chicken, fish, and meat and vegetable noodle processing. It can be used as a spice tea processing. These curry powders can be processed into the bouillon cube form. For that bouillon cube, it can be processed into by using of the compression molding technique, and rotary molded extrusion technique can be adopted for the processing of these bouillon cubes and seasoning cubes. In terms of commercially, that ginger cubes and chili cubes are commercially available. So our spice boxes, it can be turned into single spice and multi spice also can be processed into bouillon cube form. This it has the highest demand in the European market, and that each processor we should also consider this quality parameter during processing and development. Physical properties, mainly its appearance, color, and foreign contaminants should be considered, and chemical properties, volatile oil, pungency, color, and starch and fiber should be considered. And similarly, that is safety of the consumer, we should be ensure the microbial quality and sensory profile. So non-traditional use of spices can be included as yet nutraceuticals. So we have the major segments of spices. We are exporting chilies, cardamoms, and in terms of powder, in terms of oil and oleoresins, and also the productions. Also, we have the queen of spices, king of spices, and golden spices we have. So we can work serving boundlessly to rising India in spice sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.